It's news time. Let's check back in with Nathan Cohns from the news studio.
Thank you very much, John, and good morning, everyone. A group of Carroll residents, referring to themselves as all cultures are equal, says they are actively working to make Carroll a more welcoming place to people of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds. The group started meeting informally nearly 2 years ago to assist Ukrainians displaced by the Russian invasion in Eastern Europe. Jim Friel, who sits on the group's 13-member steering committee, says they broadened their target demographic as they met further.
The thought process was that's when the war was starting to take place. Is this something that we should be proactive with or be prepared in case refugees start coming into the state of Iowa? From there was some interest on what we can do for a refugee program. A second meeting took place about 2 months after that. As we're at the meeting, individuals start bringing up, well, why are we looking at just Ukrainian refugees? Is this something that we should be looking at for all refugees or immigrants coming into the state or even into our community? It was informal. From April of 2022 to current, it was a group of individuals that would only meet maybe 3 times a year and just talk about what is the right approach, not only for individuals coming to our community, but also for our community.
It became apparent Carroll was ill-equipped to handle refugees due to language barriers, differences in faith backgrounds, and more. Instead, the group shifted its focus to finding ways to support newcomers to Carroll who don't fit the traditional mold.
If you go back to look at Carroll maybe in the 50s and 60s compared to where Carroll is today, we are progressing, and we just want to make sure we stay proactive on making all feel welcome in our community. And if there's things that we can do to assist, we definitely want to look at that. We want to promote right now to ensure that we can retain and also recruit additional folks to help in our community.
Friel says recruit does not mean relocating busloads of immigrants and dropping them off in Carroll. He says companies like Pella transport workers to their facilities here in town from an hour plus away to work, and then they return home to spend the wages they earn here in other places.
If you drive down Highway 30 here in Carroll, how many openings do we have for positions? How are we going to go ahead and fill those positions? And then you hear from Iowa Economic Development that of working age, only 64 to 68% of the workforce is working. Where is the disconnect in those figures there? And why do we have so many more openings? So in order for us to go ahead and continue maybe growing Carroll or maintaining a certain level of growth in Carroll, we're going to need additional workforce, whether it is through an H-2A program for farmers or whether it is individuals coming into our community, regardless of their nationality or ethnic background. It's just saying, hey, we want all good people that want to be in our community here.
Friel says this effort is still in its very early stages and they have many problems to solve. The housing stock is already tight for current residents, and that's just a starting point. Friel says they are just looking to get the ball rolling to see what is possible.
It's such a broad topic. We're trying to figure out what we need for our community. That's why we're forming a steering committee. What do we need, if anything, for our community? How do we assist our employers? How do we assist our schools? How do we help individuals that maybe want to move to Carroll network with people, such as the churches and the schools, where they can feel comfortable? I use the word safe, but feel like they're part of the community.
Friel adds they're still just getting started and don't even have a firm goal set as of yet. He says they haven't started developing housing plans or workforce integration guidelines. Friel says they want to have the community involved and to be transparent.
And we have more people that just want to be involved, want to get the facts, want to get the knowledge. But if they want to be involved, just to have them reach out to me, and they can email me, they can contact me. All are welcome.
You can find his contact points included with this story on our website at 1380kcim.com.
That is a great story. Thank you so much for bringing that to us.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
If we can talk, we'll just wrap things up here. But this has been a thing that's been happening for 2 years, and so there's been kind of questions, and hasn't been. It hasn't been intentionally hidden by any means, but it's kind of felt that way. You know, I've asked questions about over the time. It's come up in a few meetings, things like that, like what's going on here, and it's kind of like just a group of people doing a thing. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? So it hasn't been really well defined, and it still really isn't. But whenever there's kind of not well defined things happening, people start to fill in the gaps. So
Yes.
Some things that I've heard floating around is that they're going to be busing like immigrants to Carroll. That's not a thing that's really been discussed. Things along those lines. So it's not as clear cut as I've heard people talk about it as. Really, if you've got questions about it, reach out to Jim. He's super easy to talk to, great guy. And he'll answer any questions you might have. Obviously I had some questions or concerns about it, just as a resident and, a constituent of Carroll. Felt much better after talking with him about it. Just my first thought was, I just straight up asked him, I'm like, we don't have housing here for the people that live here currently. Like, where would we store people? That sounds terrible. But, where would they live?
Exactly.
Where would they go? And he's like, we're well aware of that problem. Like, we want to focus here first. And then once we get to that point, we can go further.
Yeah. What this whole story kind of told me was that they're trying to break down that fear of newer people moving to Carroll and things like that. And you've got to be welcoming. If you do it in the right way, it could be fantastic for the town of Carroll.
Yeah, this is just kind of a personal story to this. I've been in town almost a decade now, but the first 3 or 4 years, and I'm an English-speaking Iowan, right? Like, moving to Carroll's pretty tough, just as a community. And that's true of anywhere, but it was hard for the first couple of years. It's great now. Love it here. This is not like a complaint or anything along those lines. But imagine maybe not having English as your first language, right? Things like that. It could be even harder. So that's really what they're focusing on. This isn't about busing in hundreds of immigrants or anything along those lines.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. We encourage everybody, if you missed any part of that or you want to hear it again, go to the website. It's a terrific story. Thank you so much for bringing that to us this morning.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's what you guys pay me for. So.
Hey, yeah, you know what? You're bringing the good news on a Friday, man.
I guess
Look at you being all optimistic.
Something's wrong. I must be getting sick. Do you have a thermometer? I need to check my temp.
Good thing the weekend's almost here, right?
You bet.
All right, thanks, Nathan, for that news update. And again, we encourage you, go look at that story. Go read it. Go listen to Jim once again. Really, really terrific stuff, I thought. 6:18, let's get on to the forecast because even that is looking good. Wow, we got nothing but good news for you.